everybody, thanks for joining Create with Dee. Today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite stamp sets from the 2014 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. It's called Wondrous Wreath, and it does have matching framelit dies in order to help us with these wreath creations. I'm so excited. The stamp set can be found on page 9 in the Holiday Catalog. And you can save 15% on the bundle of the stamp set and matching framelit die. Okay, well obviously this is ready to go for Christmas here in the catalog, and I took this card for the winter months and I wanted to transform it into a fall card. As soon as I had seen this wreath set, I knew I could do it for all four seasons, you know, spring, summer, winter, and fall, and just have a wonderful wreath. So let's get started making the wonderful wreath in this fall version. One of the things that you'll notice with this stamp set is that there's a tab guide, yay, on both the image and the matching die. On some of the previous stamp sets that Stampin' Up! Had, it was, you know, always tricky to find where the starting point and where those images lined up perfectly. So in this particular stamp set here and matching die, we have this wonderful tab guide that tells us this is up. So when you go to stamp, you know to put that on the top of your project paper that you're stamping, and then when you go to the Big Shot, again the tab is your top section that lines up, and this will make sense here in just a little bit. Okay, so Stampin' Up! Suggested that what we do when we start making our wreath, the first thing that we want to do is actually die cut out the center part of the wreath. So let me get the Big Shot here. Get it in frame. And I've got my scrap piece of Whisper White. And I'm going to take the center frame, or framelit, to cut out the wreath center. So again, what we're doing is we're going to cut out the center of the wreath first. The tab shows me that that's side up. I am using my magnetic platform. And go ahead and let that ram. So our first step then is to cut out the center part of the wreath. To get the variety of layer colors, what I'm going to do is use all of my fall colors that I want as the base, and just like most two-step stamping, we want to stamp the lighter image first and then follow with darker colors on top of it. So I'm going to start with my two colors for my base wreath, and our new version will be a little different than this one. We're going to use Crushed Curry and Pear Pizzazz as our ink colors for our base. And what I found is that for the photopolymers, I like using my piercing mat. It's foam and it gives it a nice cushion stamping surface. My work tables aren't necessarily even, and maybe that has a little bit to do with it. What I like to do is cover it with the paper towel just so that I don't inadvertently get ink on it. Okay, so I'm going to take our image, and using the sponge daubers, I'm going to apply color to the base. And just kind of random hit where I want our little fall colors to come through. Do want to make sure that I get plenty of surface covered, meaning I want to make sure I have it all. Now I'm going to pick up the green. Whatever color's on top is definitely going to be the one that transfers the most to the paper. And I just want to make sure that I get each of the leaves represented here. Make sure they each have ink on it. The photopolymer stamps, crafters, they will stain. That's why you see this little pinkish hue. to mine. Trick with the photopolymers is just making sure that you clean it as soon as possible. All right, I think that should do it. Okay, so remember our little tab here that said that this was the top side up? And that was our guide, so I'm going to bring this into the center. And look how filthy this block is, oh my gosh. So now what I want to do is I'm going to, here's our tab, so that's the top of it. I'm going to line up the leaf images and the stamp images so it goes right around that die cut out, and press. And I want to press very firmly until I can kind of see that all of that ink has transferred onto the Whisper White. And then pull that up. Cute, 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 cute. So a lot of my green came through on that one. So now I'm going to take the next layer. And again, I used Tangelo Twist, and it had this nice, pink stain that was the residue of it. Okay, so same thing, only I'm going to go ahead and swap out some colors here. Here's Tangelo Twist. And I'm going to use the Tangelo Twist and Mossy Meadow for my top darker colors. Get some more sponge daubers. Get some orange. Get the Tangelo on here. And, whoops. Yep, Mossy Meadow. Again, I can see where these are going to be on here. This is a card that we made at my team meeting. Of course, us demos get a little sneak peek opportunity on some pre-orders, so I had a chance to play with it ahead of time. Love that feature. Just make sure we get all of them. Okay, I think we got it. Okay, so bring back our sample. And just like before, we've got the little tab on the top that says this is where we're going to line it up. And our two-step stamping, the leaves will actually match right on top of other leaves, that leaf images that are on there. So we'll hold that down. Again, give it a little press. And voila, we've got a nice little variety and variegated leaf. Of course, you can play around with the colors a little bit. I have a little bit of the yellow tone that came through, but maybe not as pronounced as, what it was on this one. But each one will be just a little bit different. Okay, let's bring the Big Shot back in. All right, now it's time to do the outer part of the wreath die. And here again is the tab saying that it's the top. And look how wonderful that aligns. If you guys have ever played with any of the other dies that you struggle with trying to find it, you're really going to love this feature that they've come out with this tab. Ingenious, and it so helps us use our intricate die cutting images like this wreath. And we know which way is up. Love that. Pop it out. And there's our wreath, perfectly stamped and die cut. I love it, love it, love it. So taking the crushed curry, going to go ahead and stamp our wreath hanger and bow using, again, some of the coordinating images that we have. And I'm going to use up my piece of Whisper White that I have. Again, just holding that image on the paper for just a few seconds. And it's so nice because you can just see it going right over. All right, so I'll take that to the Big Shot and get those cut out again with the matching framelits. No tabs on these. It's, it's self-evident where to get those cut. So we don't need any guides for those. I also die cut out an image from And Many More. It's the Give Thanks, and I die cut that out with the itty bitty banners die. Okay. One of the things that you may have noticed on the card is that I've got orange rhinestones. I did that by taking the Rhinestone Basic Jewel and the Pumpkin Pie Blendabilities. This one is the medium pumpkin pie, so it's the true pumpkin pie color. And you can use the darker ones too. But while we're putting other elements together, I'm going to go ahead and just color up the rhinestones to add just a little sparkle and bling to our fall wreath. I could use the darker tone of the pumpkin pie, but I really wanted them to really kind of pop off of the wreath. Okay. So, and just like the other blendabilities, you can kind of keep going back over it to get deeper, intense color. And always want to make sure that you hear that click. Next, we're going to take the splatter image from Gorgeous Grunge, and we're going to add a little interest to our card base, which is crumb cake cut at 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, folded in half the long way. And I'll open that up. Again, I'm going to do tone on tone with the crumb cake and just add some splatters. A little background interest on the card front. And like I said, cased this card from the Stampin' Up! Catalog. That's what it's there for, guys. You know, use it for inspiration. And I also want to kind of carry that over on the inside of the card. There we go. All right, next what I did is I added some linen thread behind it. I'm sure there's many ways of approaching how to put that on. What I like to do is just take some snail adhesive and put some adhesive in the center of your card. And then I like to proceed with making figure eights. So I start in the center, press it down, and see how these loops are loose. So I just want to make my loop and make my figure eights. And I want it to almost go just slightly off of the card base. Because by the time it shrinks up, then you know, it's there. So however many loops that you want, you know, make 2 or 3. I use 2. Make sure you give yourself plenty of loops. Again, I'm just making a figure 8, tacking it down on the inside of it. And get that cut off. Next, what I did is I die cut a banner using the banner's framelits, and then ran it through the large polka dot embossing folder. Yes, you guys know me, I'm a polka dot girl. And we'll adhere this on, and I'll just kind of show you how it assembles. So, you know, we just go ahead and layer that on. I'm going to, again, put it on with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Get this put on. Get the other card kind of in cue here. And kind of position that over top of our linen thread. Whoops. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and take some snail adhesive to put on the hanger, and just put that kind of centering right from the top of the card. Next, we'll put our wreath on. Again, we're going to pop that up with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Going to put 4 on, kind of like north, east, south, and west. We had so much fun making this card at the team meeting, and my team, the designer paper dolls, are going to get a sneak peek of this video. before I let it go live to everybody else. Okay, put that on. So much fun being part of the Stampin' Up! Family. I'm going to take a dimensional and cut it in half. Put it on either side of the bow, the wreath bow, and place that on here. Now let's get those blendability, how's that for a new verb? We'll get the new blendability blinged out rhinestones. And I like picking them up with my paper piercer. And I'll add some bling throughout, where I think that my leaves need a little bit of color. I think I used a total of 6. I've got 5 around the wreath and then 1 on this bow's center. So we'll just kind of add some color or some little bit of interest. Might do one more. There we go. Just that little bit really adds a little bit to it. And the last thing that we'll do is we'll add the sentiment. I like using mini glue dots, and again, picking it up with the paper piercer. I'm going to put a glue dot on either end of the banner tail. And what I like to do is give it a little bit of a, like of a banner bend. And so I'm going to put one end over here, and then kind of do a little bendy and put the other end over there. And then if you want it to, like, bring the tail out. Too cute! So another way that you can use your Wondrous Wreath, think beyond Christmas and the winter holidays, and you've got a cute little wreath for any time that you want to use that type of an image. Thanks for watching, everybody, and happy crafting. Bye-bye.